What's going on there, everyone? All right, we're gonna start this off with a site that I really do not care for because they are so partisan and they have spread a lot of fake news. But this is from the Daily Beast. Let's see what this extremely left-wing site has to say. GLAD survey. Young people become less accepting of LGBTQ people because Trump and newness factor. I don't think Trump actually has anything to do with this. Trump doesn't care if people are gay. He has been for gay people. He just doesn't care. It doesn't confront him. That's their wishes. They do what they want. I don't know why they always want to lump the Trump administration into everything. The Trump administration they're not all encompassing. Come on, people. The received wisdom is that younger people are more accepting when it comes to LGBTQ people and issues. Progressives place their hope in the next generation when it comes to shifting the goalpost around equality and political change. No longer. This morning, GLAD published research that shows that young people, apparently overwhelmed by the newness of the variety of sexual preferences and gender identities, and the anti-LGBT animus of the Trump administration. Let me stop there. There is no animus in the Trump administration. I could see if they would say Mike Pence a little bit, because he is a very, very religious man. He's strict about his religious morals and values. But Trump does not care. Trump is actively right now trying to get the world to stop persecuting gay people. The whole world as a whole. Where's the animus in that? Come on. Get real. Let's get real. In its 5th annual Accelerating Acceptance Index, GLAD found that the only age group to post a decline in acceptance of LGBTQ was the 18 to 34-year-olds. I fall in that. I'm 32. I don't care. To each their own. If you want to be gay, trans, bi, I don't know why queer is part of that, because if you're a lesbian or a gay man, aren't you? Doesn't that mean you're queer? I don't get it. But yeah. The study conducted by the Harris Poll looked at acceptance levels across 7 areas. Learning a family member is LGBT. Learning one's doctor is LGBT. Having LGBT members at one's place of worship. Seeing an LGBT co-worker's wedding picture. Having one child placed in a class with an LGBT teacher, seeing a same-sex couple holding hands, and learning one's child has a lesson on LGBT history in school. Well, I don't like the fact that they're pushing this in schools to our children. Let kids be kids. They're going to figure this all out in time. Don't push agendas on them. That's a big problem that more conservative-leaning people have. That's actually, I think, the root of this big problem is everyone's being pushed. You can't push people to do things. For example, say I have a piece of cake. Most people like cake. But if I say, here, you have to eat this now. Well, let me get that off there. But say, here, you have to eat this right now. Eat it. Most people are going to be like, well, no. I don't want it. I don't want to. But if I say, here, would you like a piece of cake? People may be like, and when they get to think about it on their own for themselves, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll have a piece of cake. You see what I mean? When people are pushed, especially Americans, when we're pushed, we don't like that. We don't like that. Excuse me. GLAD found that the number of U.S. adults aged 18 to 34 who reported being very or somewhat comfortable across these situations dropped from 53% to 45%. This reflects a continued erosion in comfort among this age group over the past 2 years. GLAAD reported this year the significant erosion is being driven by females age 18 to 34, where comfort levels fell from 64% last year to 52% this year. Across all age groups, 18% of Americans know a transgender person, 31% know a bisexual person, and 75% know a gay or lesbian person. Yeah. I'm actually friends with, on my Facebook groups, gays and trans people. And we all get along just fine. We get along just fine, and it's actually a really awesome situation because we get to communicate. We have open dialogue to discuss our differences and all that. That's what needs to be done, you know? Invite people for open dialogue. It doesn't matter what their views are. Let them talk. The more people talk, the more people generally come to common ground. It's common sense. That's how things work. GLAAD also found out that the majority of non-LGBTQ Americans, 80%, support equal rights for the LGBTQ community. I agree with that. I do support equal rights for them. The 8 in 10 statistic has been consistent since 2016 and will bolster campaigners' hopes for ultimately passing legislation like the Equality Act. There doesn't need to be legislation about this. All people in the United States are already equal. That's how it works. We have civil rights. This goes under basic civil rights and everything. Breaking down the statistics further, GLAAD found more young people ages 18 to 34 responded that they were very or somewhat uncomfortable in 3 personal scenarios, including learning a family member was LGBTQ, 36% uncomfortable in the 2019 report versus 29% in the 2018 report. Learning one's doctor was LGBTQ, 34% versus 27%. And learning one's child had a lesson on LGBTQ history in their school, 39% versus 30%. Like I said, I don't accept the schools pushing this narrative. This is an activist type narrative that they are pushing. I don't care for that. Leave schools for actual learning, not activism. 43% of males aged 18 to 34 reported that they were uncomfortable learning a family member was LGBTQ, up from 32% in 2018, and 42% of males aged 18 to 34 reported that they were uncomfortable learning that their child's teacher is LGBTQ, up from 37% in 2018. And I can say probably that the reason they're uncomfortable for that teachers learning that their child's teacher is LGBTQ is because they fear that this is gonna propagate them pushing a narrative on their children. You know, the teachers pushing a narrative on their children instead of teaching them actual curriculum. 40% of females aged 18 to 34 reported that they were uncomfortable learning that their child had a lesson on LGBTQ history in school, an increase of 13 percentage points from the previous year's findings. Yeah. GLAAD also found that nearly half of non-LGBTQ adults, 49%, are classified as allies, meaning they are very or somewhat comfortable with the LGBTQ people across all 7 situations. This has not changed from the 49% in 2018, which was down from 43% the prior year. 12% of the survey reported to be LGBTQ themselves. Most people, like I said, most people don't care. To each their own. That might be the libertarian in me. But, no, I don't care. I don't care. As long as you're not force-feeding me a bunch of BS. I don't want to hear about that. Do you. And that goes for just about anything. As long as you're not trying to harm someone or call for the harming of someone, I don't care what you do. You're free to do what you want. Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD, told the Daily Beast that GLAAD had conducted focus groups after the main statistical survey to see what factors had led to the decline in acceptance for 18 to 34-year-olds. The statistics are counterintuitive to what we believe. But if we stop and think about it for a second, newness takes a while to turn into acceptance. They're interfacing with new gender identities and sexual orientations, so that takes a minute to get used to. Another thing would be we make up a bunch of crap all the time, unscientific information, and throw that out there. We say there's 72 genders, which is complete BS. Come on, people. It goes with the science denying factor. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. People are just like, what? This doesn't make any sense. 72 genders? No. You got male and female. That's about the size of it. Gender and sex to me are the same thing. Sorry, that's just kind of how it works scientifically. Then look at this current administration we're living under and its culture of hate and discrimination. Those are the two issues at hand that emerge from the focus group. It's not the administration that is a culture of hate and discrimination. If you actually look at it in a realistic view, who's pushing hate and discrimination? It's the left. It's the left. And people who don't see that have obviously sewed their eyes shut. The left's against white people in general, but especially white men, this, that, and the other. Come on. Who's the racist and who's the discriminatory factor? It's the left. It's not the right. Because the right just doesn't care about these issues. They're non-issues to us, is what it is. It's not an issue. It's not my place to worry about a gay woman or a gay man or a transgender person. It's not my place. It doesn't confront me. Ellis sought to emphasize positives in the survey, such as last year, GLAAD had seen rollbacks on all 7 indicators, which this year had stabilized. The group plans to target young men. See? Problem. This is a problem right here. This is one of the problems that are going to keep people distancing themselves. The group plans to target young men with pro-LGBTQ messaging in the arena of video games. Big mistake. Don't do that. Gamers do not like that. They do not like PC politics in their games. Trust me. But this year, in terms of gender, the decline was seen most in women, age 18 to 34, which that actually came to a surprise to me. Ellis said that GLAAD would start targeting messaging aiming at the demographic in the arena of country music. Also, a big mistake. When you target something, you're trying to force it upon the people. That's where y'all are screwing up. The more these LGBTQ or pro-LGBTQ activist groups try to push everything, the harder the resistance will be. That's just how things work. That's how Americans have always been. We don't like being pushed. GLAAD maintains an updating list of what is currently 114 attacks on LGBTQ people by the Trump administration, in both policy and rhetoric. Actually, his policies for the LGBTQ have been stronger than pro-LGBTQ than anybody else or any other administration in history. Ellis said that the percentage of high-profile LGBTQ supporters and stories in pop culture helped stem the anti-LGBTQ actions of the White House. There's no anti-LGBTQ sentiments in the White House. They're not putting that out there. The only thing that they did say is, at our embassies, do not fly the flag, the rainbow flag. It's not proper for our embassies, which it's not. It's just not. Our embassies are to have our national flags and stuff like that, not a small minority group's flag. Imagine how bad it would be if they didn't step up, and we just had hate spewing out of the most powerful office in the country and the world, Ellis said. Well, that's not happening either. You're making things up again. That's what they do. They have to push their narrative, so they have to, let's take reality, let's grab reality, and let's just rip it apart and take this section and muddle it up real good. Throw some mint in there, and there you go. You got a cocktail of BS. What is this? If we had an administration helping people, making them understand and bringing them together, not dividing people, we'd be in a much more different position than we are now. You know who's dividing people? Activists. Yeah. It's not the Trump administration. It's the activists, whether it's political activists or whether it's this type of activism. Sorry. I hate to break the truth to you. She added that the 2 consecutive years showing a decline in LGBTQ acceptance was concerning, though not in her view a moment or beginning of a trend. I don't think we're ever going to give up on the next generation. The best advice I could give is stop pushing. Stop trying to force people to accept something that they're confused about. Let them slowly come up with their own decisions, and if they don't like it, that's fine too. It's their right. Ellis said the Trump administration's actions and words were key. If we had an administration helping people, making them understand and bringing them together, not dividing people, we'd be in a much more different position than we are now. That said, Ellis accepted that we progressives have taken young people, the next generation, for granted, while conservatives have targeted and tried to pull them in. Yeah, I mean, that's true with a lot of things. I'll say that. They have robust college-level programming where they are going after millennials on college campuses to incite hate and discrimination. That's completely false. As an organization driving acceptance, we have to look very closely at this. Have you been to a college campus here lately? They are the most liberal places in America. They're like little, ew. I mean, conservatives can barely even speak on a college campus. Almost every college, like liberal big college, has denied conservatives from speaking. Or they've let their students practically riot when a conservative speaker is trying to come in. So get out of here with that. Contrasting with younger people, there has been an uptick in acceptance among older generations, Ellis said. Or said Ellis. Which again, progressives have misjudged. They thought millennials were in their pockets and they didn't have to worry about the older generation because they wouldn't be in power much longer. But they are coming to us as supporters. The general LGBTQ acceptance level can rise over 50% again. And whether young people rebound as supporters is down to one big thing, Ellis said. Hopefully, this is a 2-year blip until we have a turnover in the administration. Put more bluntly, if the administration continues on its anti-LGBTQ course, and if Trump wins re-election in 2020, expect to see those LGBTQ acceptance figures drop even further. No, it's not. You're hiding behind a curtain. It is y'all, activists, that are causing numbers of acceptance to drop because that's all we hear about. And to the average person, it's just not even a deal at all. They don't care about this issue. And when you force it upon them, and when the legacy media sits there and reports on all this activism, people get sick of that. I mean, people are sick and tired of it. It's just annoying. It gets really annoying after a while. And that goes with any narrative being pushed by anyone. After a while, it's just like, all right, that's enough. We've had enough. We've heard enough. That's enough. But yeah, so that's that article. But like I was saying, my opinion is if they would just stop pushing and pushing so hard for everyone to just accept their nonsensical narratives of there's 72 genders, this, that, and the other, and gender is fluid and all this. Most people don't agree with that. Most people are kind of based in reality. And a lot of activists, it doesn't matter what type of activist you are, when activism usually causes people's brains to go haywire. Being an activist, I swear, it changes the mind. It changes how the mind actually can perceive things in a negative way. And there are activists that are good, free speech activists, which I am one. That's a good thing. But there is toxic activism. And when you are trying to force people to just go along with something they don't fully understand or agree with, because some of it just doesn't make sense, you're not going to get nowhere. Like I said, full disclosure, I support the gay rights community and all this. It's no problem. Just don't push it. Don't push it on me. Because that's when I'll have a problem. To each their own. Do what you like. If you're a man and you like men, kudos to you. If you're a woman that likes women, kudos to you. If you're a man that thinks he's a woman, that's fine with me too. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Just don't push it on people. And leave schools, children, elementary schools and stuff like that, leave them out of it. They're too young. They don't need to be hearing this stuff. Most of it's not based in science, so it doesn't belong in a school setting, period. But I don't know. I've said my piece. I would love to hear your comments on it. Whether you think I'm being a little too brash or whether you agree, and just who cares? We don't hate y'all. We think you're just fine. Just leave us be. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.